Oh, we're going right back to the beginning. There isn't really much of an opening cinematic to this one. There's a bit more to the sequel, but yeah. This is Golden Sun. This is a big part of, this game was a big part of my childhood as far as gaming goes. Um, Probably my first real RPG, JRPG. Um, Family had we we owned a PS2 back when Final Fantasy X came out, but it wasn't mine, so I didn't get to play a lot of it. And looking back on it, especially having attempted to play um, Final Fantasy X again, at the time I really didn't understand what was going on. Um, Whether it was the environment or just my maturity at the time, I didn't really follow 10 as a kid, the very first time I was exposed to it. So didn't really do any other RPGs, JRPGs until this came along. And this was, if I recall correctly, actually a Christmas gift back in. It was right around the time it came out, and I didn't know about it before I got it. It was back when presents were still very much surprises. It was a good time, and I'm not entirely sure how whoever got it for me decided on this game, but I'm very glad they did. I have a feeling I may have crossed paths with it eventually on my own, but um, pretty much as soon as I started playing, I was engrossed, and it was just no going back from there. Wait a little bit longer for a bit more of an audience. Um, I'm probably gonna have to repeat this, but um, for the archive records' sake, actually I'll just wait until actually ready to deal with it. And meantime, maybe I can just talk a little bit more. Oh, hello, and my viewer count is not updating properly, so I guess I have to go and check that again. Hang on a sec. Actually, that's not the one that I want. Viewer count. There we go. Now it decided to work. I had to threaten it. All right. So the game, if you start it up for the first time, launches you right into it. None of the main menu or anything. And you can actually name all of the main characters in the game, including some characters that you don't actually even get to play as. Back when this was from an era where you still had cheat code kind of deals. If you hit select, I believe, 3 times. Yeah, you get that code, that tone, meaning you did it right. I'm just gonna stick with the default names for this playthrough. Normally I do rename these characters. I've done several playthroughs named after various friends. But for this, I'll just gonna stick with the default names. And let's do I remember this one? There was actually an additional code to name the other ones. Uh, no, I don't remember this one exactly off the top of my head anymore. You can name 3 other characters. It's not exactly the Konami code. It's similar though. So up, up, down, down. Right, up, right, down, left, up. Select. Has something ups and downs, lefts and rights, but then it does a circle at the ends, and I don't remember the ups and downs middle part. But that's okay. I'm going with leaving the default names for now anyway. And so I'm not going to uh, narrate this. There's a lot more text dialogue than there was in Fire Emblem, but I'll try to go slowly enough to make sure everyone can read it. And if you need me to slow down or if you want me to speed up, I guess let me know either way. We start in the middle of a stormy night amidst the beginnings of a calamity. Right from the start, we see a demonstration of one of the abilities, the powers in this game. They call it Psy-Energy. That's how I've always pronounced it. Is it up, down, left, right, up, right, down, left, up, select. Yeah, okay. I was close. I didn't have, yeah, as I said, I didn't have quite the combination of ups and downs right at the start. Um, and it does all, the game does, so back to the gameplay, it does offer you a lot of these choices. Mostly they're just yes or no's, and they usually are just dialogue variations. They rarely actually impact the gameplay, so it's a bit more for flavor than of actual path. Um, there's a lot of talk in the story about this boulder that seems to be a big problem, and I doubt I really thought about it too much when I was younger, but I can certainly see now why this would be a little confusing. Um, but as we go along, you'll kind of see why this is so much of a threat. They're going to evacuate the entire village because of a boulder. Yep, I'm a good boy. I know where the plaza is. My first time actually playing on an emulator, since I usually play on the actual Game Boy Advance. But you look around here. Here's one of those boulders south, right? Sorry, you can't go south. There's a bunch of these kind of forced walls here. Not a great tool, but it kind of makes sense overall. You have your first party member. And then you have to leave him to... No. That's exactly what I said. GBA control. Uh, I don't, not for a computer. Um, anyway, so the mention of Alf, Mount Alf, um, and just mountain in general kind of starts to shed some light on why this is a bit of a big deal. Since we live on a mountain, this is effectively a rock slide, rather just kind of contained into the shape of a giant boulder, which, as you can see, is about several times larger than a person and enough to crush a building. So if it kind of bounces all over the village, then it's going to cause a lot more damage than it sounded like it might initially. Here's the word Psynergy for their ability. That's their magic. No, you gotta go around. Uh-oh, monsters. Nah, you'll be fine. See? Now, I don't remember if after this, if you told him he was going to die, then he might actually not reappear here. But he's a generic NPC, so it can be difficult to tell if it's him specifically. So here's the battle system. It's turn-based, very Final Fantasy-like, though in this case you issue all of your commands first, and then combat proceeds. We don't have any Psynergy. Got just some herbs for HP. There's a defend option, but there's no point in doing that right now. I would also point out that this is my favorite soundtrack from Motoi Sakuraba, back when he was actually good. So people familiar with his work in the Tales series may hear some familiarity in these tracks, but since this is, I guess, where I heard them first, this is definitely some of his work that I remember more fondly. So this is a regular critical. Later on, we'll actually get weapons that have unique criticals to them. That there's a chance of a regular critical happening or a weapon critical, which I think they call a weapon unleash. Back across is where I came from. Pretty sure you still can't go down here any further, but yeah, I'm gonna check anyway. Okay. So yeah, in that sense, gameplay, turn-based gameplay is nothing radical or special. It's just, I think this game does it fairly well, even if it's not anything exceptional. It's got good polish. Oh no, Felix. Oh, he's still hanging on there. Don't know how that worked, but he's still there. like I like that there's a bit of a gameplay and story agreement here, in that they refer to being out of Psynergy in the same way that you can be out of Psynergy points in the game. When you it works just like Magic. There's an MP, in this case PP for Psynergy points, and when you run out, you can't use anymore. So the implication here is that they've used all of theirs helping other villagers, so they're kind of stuck now. In game, you recover Psynergy points PP by just walking around dungeon areas or just out in the field. It doesn't recover passively in villages, though. There's inns that you go to rest and you get full back there, but they kind of simulate voice pitches by having different tones for the text scroll for different characters. You hear Dora, Isaac's mother, is this a little bit lower tone compared to Jenna before, who was very high pitched. It's a subtle thing, but it's something they used within the limitations of their system to help add a little bit of differentiation between the characters. Hopefully none of these monsters attack people out trying to rescue the other villagers, or Felix in this case. Out on that dock thing were Isaac's mother and father, and Felix's mother and father, and his sister Jenna. And your mother, or Isaac's mother, and Jenna were the ones that left to go find help. There's a bit more out here. This is one of those games where you can check a lot of different stuff. I don't remember exactly what all is where, so I won't be getting everything, but it's okay. A lot of the early stuff's just kind of antidotes, status cure stuff. These buff, big, strong men are going to go help with the boulder, even though they're just going to be throwing magic at it. Timing in what sense? There are quite a few paths blocked by falling rocks. Oh, turn order is based on the speed, agility stat, and it's compared against enemies too. Now is not the time for that. It is not. For the most part, the player's agility you kind of get used to. You know who in your party is the fastest and who's slowest, so you can kind of predict your turn order. But enemies might outspeed you, or outspeed certain party members, but it usually isn't too big of a deal. You can check your agility in battle. You can see pull up that status screen I was just looking at in battle if you really need to. Uh-oh, that doesn't sound good. Welp. And that concludes, and I'm able to move around immediately. They don't kind of bog that down with any dialogue until you actually... They keep the player involved here. I like that line. It's one of the more powerful lines in the game. It's just Jenna's struck by this feeling of despair. Everyone in her family is suddenly gone, and poor Isaac here is mute himself. Otherwise, he might be rather upset over the his father being gone now. Garrett's your sidekick. He's the bro this game, and he's a good one. Mysterious strangers. Oh, Ken, I think they mentioned earlier the rope is not actually long enough. Yeah, these two have some very interesting design that you kind of have to look at the official art to really appreciate, because you don't really get a good look at them outside of these kind of sprites here. But that was kind of the technology of the time. Damn it, Garrett, I was just praising you. Yeah, what about it? We were eavesdropping. I think the bridge kind of needs those in order to stay up itself. Uh-oh. Well, this is how you beat two small children. Yeah, that's how they leave. So that's the prologue. Sets up sets everything up pretty well, I think. At least knowing what I do about it now. And it's not overly drawn out for it either. So time-wise, main character Isaac and Garrett and Jenna are all 17 in the present, and it was 3 years, so they were 14 in that flashback. Neither of those are characters from this game that you've posted in Discord. They're both from the 3DS one. It's the third game. I feel like I have, but I'm not sure I can put my finger on it right this instant. Yeah, she mad. Megalomach. This is a nice, if unnecessary, display of kind of how their power, the psi energy, is fairly integral to their daily life. They even do chores like patching the roof with it. Yeah, I still do. That's a good question. I don't know. If we were stronger, maybe we would have been able to help Felix sooner. So I think we'll say yes. Well, how's that for an introduction? I mean, I guess that the mask. He basically was the mask in the character from Konosuba. We're totally not going up there to play around or anything. So here we have the revelation that their magic is from alchemy, whether it's the alchemy that we think of historically or not is a little unclear. Um, in this particular case, alchemy is kind of more of a tag word for just the general sciences of this world. Even if it does kind of get a bit supernatural when it comes to those high energy powers. But Mom, we have superpowers. Why would I want to be an ordinary man? You were saying. Mom getting in her characterization now, because we won't really be seeing much of her after this. Spoilers, we leave the village. A little lengthy of an opening cutscene, but it does its job. It reintroduces the characters, main characters, and kind of gives them some characterization now that we're a little bit more further along in the present. So get used to seeing these rock pillar things. They are a reoccurring obstacle. They are pushable, and you can also use Psy-Energy to interact with them. I found this really novel the first time I played this, because coming from like Pokemon, where the block pushing puzzles were kind of restrictive in that if you pushed your rock up against the wall on two sides, there was no way of getting it out. But Psy-Energy gives you a way to fix that, which I really appreciated. This is Garrett's house. Garrett is the grandson of the mayor, who is, I believe, this guy. The houses look kind of nice, but they aren't really well thought out from a realistic point of view, because like there's two, three generations living here, and there's only one bed. So yeah. I'm gonna go to Mount Elf without oh, never mind. Oh, not at all. That'll be important later. Oh, that's a familiar face. Not that our characters have seen it in 3 years. Looking back on it now, something I hadn't noticed the last time I played it is that they did do some kind of weird stuff with the kerning, the space, well, maybe not necessarily the kerning, but the space between words specifically, not letters. You can see here in the second line is the spaces are stretched out in order to be as close to center justified or justified within the text box as they can be. That top line isn't. I'm not entirely sure what that's about, actually. Somehow they sensed us. Yeah, I was eavesdropping. This is always one that I've been not sure how to answer. Will be self-important. They haven't bothered to introduce themselves or state what their business is, so I have no way of knowing whether it's more important than our engagement. Nope. Kiederen is this guy. Your old sage character. But he's old and wise, but he's not all-knowing. He's only somewhat of a plot device. But I think for the most part, what is his plot driving relevance does make sense since he is a scholar and he's been researching this as stuff as his life's work. And he's not without some personality of his own. I'm pretty sure... Yeah, there's an elixir here. In this game, elixirs are just secure statuses that are not poison. Because there's arbitrarily an antidote for the item just for that. Oh, we got their names now, Satoros and Minardi. Why is that a problem? He's a sly old fox. Yeah, just don't get caught. My lips are sealed. Jeez. I don't wanna. Yeah, Isaac is a silent protag. In a sense, supposed to be a self-insert, because you get to kind of pick those some of those yes or no choices, which kind of falls apart in the sequel where he actually does start talking. But it's another story. Can't actually do anything up here yet, but I'll come back to that later in the game. We can, real quick, go check something real fast. The mayor did mention that there were visitors in town staying at the inn. So think, they're just, is this locked? So I think that's locked. So we can go to the inn and harass the villagers. Because that's what gaming protagonists are supposed to do. Why do you wear a mask? Darn. Curse is foiled again. So, unlike earlier when the NPC was using the Psynergy Stone to recharge his PP, it happens instantaneously for the player characters. So these two NPCs are always the armor and or weapon vendor and armor vendor. So you start out with a short sword, I believe. So the longsword is an upgrade. The mace is not. Yeah, this is the best value here. One thing I also liked about Golden Sun was the first RPG I ran into from this time period where you buy something, it asks you if you want to equip it, and it even also gives you an option to sell the thing you were just wearing, which is really nice for inventory management. We got gloves. It's hats. No one has hats. So hats are immediate upgrades. The artifacts will be important later. That's where we can get rare items. rare armor, rare weapons that have special effects, like those weapon criticals I mentioned earlier. They don't have them now since we're just starting. But yeah, you might notice that I'm not equipping Jenna with anything. And that's because she doesn't stick with us for that long. I'm actually going to take all of her equipment once we get to a certain point. So now that we're done with that, we can finally get along with our questionable behavior. We're just checking after all. This is a jump puzzle, basically. Since you can only jump roughly this distance, you kind of have to figure out what combination of paths will get you to the other side. These happen fairly frequently. So we actually have Synergy now. Isaac, the main character, is an Earth adept by default. I don't have any Earth's offensive spells at the moment. Garrett has fire, and Jenna is also fire. Jenna is the fastest of us, as you could see. That's why she went first. Right, so in that particular instance, I had all three of my characters targeting the same enemy. However, Jenna and Isaac killed the mushroom thing, the wild mushroom, before Garrett had a chance to attack it. And in this game, that just makes the character that was supposed to attack a felled monster defend instead. And I think in the sequel that actually is fixed to they'll attack a different target. You cannot miss jumps here because there's no actual jump command. This is just me walking forward and then holding in the direction I want to jump. When I get to a point where you can jump, they'll jump, and if it's too far, like in this case, then he won't do anything. And I do not remember the order. Pretty sure it's... yeah, it is start down the center. Start. Well, yeah, yes, actually. So, standard JRPG puzzle. Find a gem, put the gem in the socket. That's a lot of vermin. So this synergy, you see on the right, there's 3 lines. That's an indicator of range. We go back to Cure, that has only 1 because that's only a single target. And you'll notice that the indicators are not all the same size. It's these kinds of attacks are centered around a focus, and then the damage that they deal decreases the further from the center. So if I target these two, I can focus the flare on the left-hand one, but it won't hit the far right one at all. So, um, it might have been kind of neat to have various Psynergy that have different types of focuses. So like maybe something that's strongest on the far right and then peters out to the left, but has that full range. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm pretty sure none of the spells in the game actually do that. Nah, I don't feel like it. Alright, so player senses immediately. These kinds of dotted lines, they indicate the movement range that you can move an object. Like this. This one's a dud, nothing in here. This one, however, has some stairs. Oh, alright. See how well I remember this labyrinth. I found the chest. Oh, level up for Isaac. So he now has a Earth offensive Psynergy called Quake that I can use. There's a good place for it. In retrospect, it looks kind of janky, but it's fine. Well, there goes all my experience points. Spell animations are a mixed bag. You have some of those, like some that are like that, but then there are others that are actually really cool. Alright, so I probably should have just made Garrett attack rather than cast more magic. So this is another something that the sequel fixed from the original game. There were enemies in between these two, and now that some of the enemies died, but they're still really spread out, and I actually can't target both of them with my 3-range Psynergy anymore. So in which case it's better just to smack them. Not sure if it's supposed to be like moss or other dirt that's on the ground there. Those green splotches. This stuff. We're still in kind of tutorial mode here. It's kind of getting you used to how to solve puzzles and stuff. So here's where I'm going to set my first shortcut. So Isaac and Garrett both know move. That's the giant hands that we saw earlier. It's Isaac's move from Super Smash Bros. As a assist trophy. So we got the bull, and we need the gem, which I might actually already have, now that I think about it. Yeah. So I know there's also a doorway here. And I believe this is the one that I'm supposed to go to. So I don't remember what actually, if anything actually changed over in this hall. It doesn't look like anything changed. So if you had missed that treasure chest earlier, you would have to go back and find it. Which I'm okay with. I like the game. This game does have good exploration, dungeon exploration and stuff, and it rewards that fairly well. Enemy got a critical hit there. See, I know there's a treasure chest over here. It's just a healing item, which I tend to be really stingy with because you can use Psynergy to cure, and that Psynergy recovers over time. You just have to have Isaac not use Battle Psynergy for a little bit, which is okay because he's got fantastic physical attack. He generally is the highest physical attack in the party. Isaac has the highest physical attack and second highest speed. Garrett has the highest physical defense. And generally the highest HP as well. They must have been thieves. Well, I suppose you're not wrong. Don't do this. Don't do this just one more room thing. It's a slippery slope, Kiederen. Yeah, I play gacha games. Let's go. Praise the sun. Luna, I suppose, being their proper noun for the new moon. They actually gave the moon a name. Yeah, I imagine they must be related. I'm still a little low on psi energy. There's a gem down here that will restore my psi energy. So back all at full. Nothing else in this room. Now, when you first get to this puzzle, they're expected. Oh, look, they expected you to first see. Oh, look, these dotted lines again. I think we can move these statues. You absolutely can. But we can actually save some time by coming over here and doing the other part of the puzzle that they kind of then tell you about later if you were a little hasty. But I can actually skip that cutscene and save some time by doing this first. I don't know how light plus light equals whole, but there it is. Don't ask me why the ancients designed it like that either. So now we can do this. And that was also technically a little time saver as well, because this cutscene coming up will actually teleport us to the other side of the water area. Right there, see? So now I don't have to jump twice. I've never really speedrun this, but that would be something you could do if you did. That is a very good question, Kiederen, and I still don't have an answer. That is exactly what we did. So this literally skipped the first cutscene where we find out if you move these statues first, there's a lot of shaking in it. I don't remember what the actual consequences were, if there were any. Kiederen comes in and says, "Hey, don't do that. Gonna bring the whole place down." Oh, I think it gets moved back automatically. And then you go look over at the other side of the room and do the light to hold thing. And then you can come back and do this, because the trap's been quote-unquote disarmed. Oh, we shined lights on the moon, turned it into the sun. Yes, that is what happens. To be fair, he wasn't there when we were doing that upstairs, so it does make sense to have him react to it. So here's where stuff gets trippy. So another limitation of the hardware thing here. It looks like this beam is coming out of the center of the Luna here. right? Kind of. That's what it's always looked like to me, but from my perspective, it should be going like straight up from that case, but it's actually going forward and hitting this wall. Yes, the rabbit hole. This is totally a good idea because we have adult supervision. Kraden, you're supposed to be the responsible one. Shouldn't you know this? What if this had transported us to the moon? There was a Luna on the floor, right? There's no... Well, there's kind of an atmosphere there, but we can't breathe there. What was the last thing you remember, John? This can't be the ocean because the ocean has waves. You just wouldn't understand. Oh, wow. All the way back to the move skill. Let's see. We solved a puzzle. We solved 2 puzzles, maybe. Basically, there was a room with a sun in the middle, a bunch of statues around it, and then next to it there was a room with a moon on the floor and a bunch of statues around it. So we did a puzzle that changed basically swapped turned the moon one into a sun and the sun one into a moon. The moon shot out this beam of light into the wall and it created a portal that we went through and got here. World building here. Almost literally. I never quite understood why Venus was representative of the element of Earth. Mercury being water that's okay. There's Mercury has a lot of association with fluidity, even from like a mythos standpoint. Mars being kind of warlike. That's also not difficult to associate with fire, and Jupiter being the first major gas giant, being windy isn't terribly isn't too much of a leap either. It's just Venus that's a little weird. You probably did, but I'll pretend you didn't. Because we're just like a little over an hour into the game. So, The alchemy of this world does include the alchemy as we kind of know it, but it also seems to be more expansive. Yeah, about that. May want to be a bit careful there, old man. Damn it, Jenna. Fine. Not like you'd let me hear the end of it if I didn't. Or rather, he'd probably go and hurt himself. I don't see any exit ladders around here. Just on the off case we ran into artifacts of absolute power. You know. Yep. There. So you do have to do these in a specific order. I know Mars is the last, and I believe Venus is not first. Well, actually it is first, I just went the wrong way. So that pillar that's kind of sunk down there, that'll rise and allow me to get to the other one. So, Kiederen, you sure it's okay for us to just take these, right? They're not here for a reason. They don't have to, like, specifically stay here. Right? We're not gonna bring about the end of the world or anything. Throw the elements out of balance. Surely you wouldn't be having us do that, would you, Kiederen? Kiederen? Good, good. Now fetch the others. Nah, man, I just got 2. Good, good. Now fetch the... Wait. He's not saying anything. Uh-oh. You see, Minardi's first line is all spread out in the spaces, but the rest of them aren't. I mean, we kind of meant to steal the elemental stars too, to be fair. Hey, it's the asshole from the end. Well, Garrett's a bro. He's good. I'd like to keep him around, but Jenna, I mean, she did kind of force us to go out here and risk our well-being for these trinkets. I'm not so sure about her, and all right, Graydon's pretty cool for an old guy. Oh man, but without his mask, how will he be all mysterious and villainy? Felix? He said Felix. That is what he said. Not technically. I mean, it could be any Felix. Surely there's not just one person in the whole world named Felix. It could be a cat under that mask. I haven't seen him in 3 years, but that looks like what Felix would look like if he had been with us for 3 years. I'd be kind of interested in a prequel where we got to see what all Felix actually quote unquote experienced with them. I mean, he doesn't exactly sound like he's got a lot of weight in this party, but alright. Yeah, we already said we would. I don't know why they make Garrett do this, but okay. I actually think he doesn't have his sprite doesn't have a proper jumping animation. Also, hello teleporting Alex. Why don't we just make him get the other one? He can teleport. You could get it a lot faster than the rest of us, especially since you can fly as well. That is what he said. Well, boss man. Fine, fine. Yeah, he just kind of pops over. So you can go over here, but this can't actually can't actually reach it from here. So this is actually just I guess kind of a time waster. Can't even get to this thing. Awkwardly go around the party and they watch you all the whole time. What if you just tried to peace? It's probably what Kraden says even when the others aren't there. No, it's down. I realize I have not saved yet. I'm going to do that. This is unlike Fire Emblem that auto saves. This says you have to remember to do that here. Uh-oh, that was the last one. Again? No, not the ocean. Wait, that's not the ocean. Huh. Given that Satoru said again... That rock, it's floating. Do you know what it is, Isaac? Yeah, it's a giant floating rock. I mean, I guess. Ah, it's looking at us. Gross. I do kind of wonder what their plan for the Mars star was here. Were they... I mean, I suppose they really must have been hoping that Isaac and Garrett survive this, because if the Mars star gets lost here, their entire plan is kind of ruined. So, I was a little surprised they're so willing to get out of here without it, even if it is for their own safety's sake. I suppose they might have a chance trying to dig through rubble to find it, but... Great, thanks Jenna, real helpful. I forgot to take her stuff. Oh well, it's not too big of a deal. No shit, Sherlock. And yeah, another point in favor of having sent Alex for the other last star once again, the fact that he can, fly and teleport. He wouldn't have even needed to fly. Nah, they'll be okay. The whole point for them taking Jenna and Kraden, at least Jenna, was to have a hostage, and if they did something to her, then she would be useless as a hostage. Though if they decide she's dead weight and that we're not coming back, then they might just ditch her. Don't you see the giant rock? The giant rock is talking to us. Well, that's news. News to us that our precious mountain is actually a volcano. Elemental Gene have returned. For a long, long time, I actually pronounced that D. Dijin. Yeah, if I say no, you'll force it out anyway. As far as I know, I think they're the same. I mean, if you can find a source for that, then I will consider myself educated. What a waste of craftsmanship on those statues. And on the gate too. Alright, so we got 4 MacGuffins and 4 destinations. But from the sound of things, we're actually supposed to prevent the MacGuffins from reaching their lighthouses. When 1 MacGuffin is not enough. Well, volcano's still exploding. This only partially solves our problem. Fortunately, we've got a get out for free card. It's a spell that I wish was in more RPGs. Oh, so you knew we were building our village on the side of a volcano. Not to mention we told Isaac's mom that we were going to be mountain climbing. Yeah, the emoting faces and icons are a nice little touch that kind of helps give expression to these characters that they don't really have the hardware to express otherwise. And it lets them not have to make a bunch of different face portraits, especially when the screen on the original GBA is like I think less than 2 inches diagonal. So they didn't really have a lot of space to work with. So the emoticons are, let's not go back to the erupting volcano. Getting in trouble is better than getting dead. They changed that frowny face emoticon to a sweat drop in the sequel. All the others remain the same though. Yeah, they were. It's a long story. This is all very complicated indeed. So we get to pantomime what actually happened here. They didn't feel like writing dialogue for this part, but it also helps it make it go faster. This is, I believe, the longest section that's done like this. Everything else after this is, any other time it happens is a lot shorter. That's what we said. That's what we pantomimed, I guess. Yeah, I mean they're alive, they can be saved. Oh, the giant rock. It was giant. Oh, you saw the flying giant rock in your dreams. Whatever you're on, where can we get some? It's not like we weren't just telling you what happened also as well. If you had been paying attention and not hallucinating about a giant rock. Oh, that's good. That's not what Synergy usually looks like. Did you lie to us? Yes. The Wise One will prevent the lava from reaching the village. But then the Wise One's gonna level the village himself. He likes to do things personally. Even more dreadful. That's specific. Uh. Oh. Take action, that's good. I can support that. Now about this destiny thing though. I mean, kind of. I guess. Alright, so I am going to... So, Garrett says it's all on Isaac. I'm going to save state here because I'm going to show you real quick the bad end. So I think, can you... They're all nice and supportive about it, but... Oh, he's trying to pressure you. But if you walk out... Oh, okay. So, yeah, from the Great Healer. Alright, they don't even need a save state there. That gives you the option that drops you right back here. But yeah, that was the bad end, and it's kind of interesting what that implies once you know what happens in the sequel. But I won't get into any more of that because that's spoilers. And I do intend to play this and the sequel. I'm just not sure how long it'll take me to get there, because I very much consider both of them just two parts of the same game. Too late to go back now, Garrett. Oh my god, a giant rock. Look at that, it's a rock and it's giant. And now we've got rock surveillance all the time. Felix must unlock the power. That's pretty ambiguous itself, too. go to the elemental lighthouses. What then? Seek out the elementals, the Jinn. They will prove useful. Gameplay, yes. Story-wise, no. It's only awkward if you say it's awkward. Yeah, you go meditate. Kind of curious that they used the two kids here to segue into this scene. Kind of helps them, allows the writers to highlight something that would be difficult to kind of point out while they're there. Well, I suppose not so much. I think they actually mention it again. Hey, we got an herb. I'm sure Garrett loves having two sisters. Yeah, here he is. Mom? Well, I guess that means she's not coming. Yep. I find it interesting that Garrett's mom and both sisters have portraits, but his grandfather, the mayor, doesn't. Wow, that's shaking kind of awkwardly in the stream. Okay, it's a little better now that I'm started moving. Hello, woodland creature. Are you talking to me? Are you talking? Oh, it's a genie. Genie. took me a while to connect this spelling to the pronunciation genie as well. But yeah, genie is the plural jinn. No, singular of jinn. Jinn is the plural. Jinn are a pretty big part of the combat system. This is a forced tutorial. I'm not actually even controlling any of this, so they just show it to you. Yeah, the graphics were actually a fairly big deal for the time. 2001, the GBA was still fairly early in its life, so having the pseudo 3D kind of stuff and the sprites was pretty nice. I might punch through all this quickly just to get it over with, because I can explain it more succinctly and faster as we go. This battle is also scripted, to the point where I'm not actually controlling this either. Fortunately, I believe this is the only battle that's like this. All other tutorials are just kind of mentions afterwards. Yep. So I guess I can start on the explanation here. Jinn have two states. They're either in set mode or standby mode. When they're in set, they are white, and you can use their special attack effect in battle, as you saw earlier with Isaac's Stone Cleaver attack. And once they're in standby, their text is in red, and that means that they can be used to summon. And after they're summoned, they go into recovery. And then once they finish recovery, they go back to being in set mode. And there are benefits to both of those. When they're set in the white, they grant you stat boosts, and so here you see if I change Flint from standby, the red, to set, then Isaac will gain HP, PP, and attack, and he contributes to Isaac's class, the Squire class, though I don't have enough to actually change his class, but that's how you change classes later. Actually, I can do this. So if I give Garrett Flint, Garrett's class changes from Guard to Brute, and that changes his Psynergy. And if I put him in a standby, he stops contributing to his class, and at which point he becomes a Guard again, and his Psynergy goes back to being his default Guard Psynergy. So this kind of makes a customizable, immutable, it's actually a very mutable combat system where it's technically possible to change your magic loadouts mid-combat by setting and summoning Jinn. It's usually kind of clunky to try to do that intentionally mid-battle, but it's if you need to or want to change out your Psynergy availability, you can manipulate Jinn to do that. Outside of battle, it's all free. Inside battle, you can set and summon, but you can't trade between characters. Since Flint is an Earth genie and he matches Isaac's native Earth elements, he doesn't actually change anything by having him set on Isaac for now. We get more of them. They will eventually change Isaac's even his default class. And that might have also partially been an excuse to listen to the overworld music, because that is probably my favorite music in the game. It goes for a fairly long time too. I'm not gonna sit through it any more than this though. Just gonna save. So we got our first town already. I think you can zoom out. And then this is our world map. That's where we started. That's there. Sleep is literally puts the system to sleep. I'm actually not sure what it will do in an emulator. Yeah, it just blanks out. But it was made with the handhelds in mind. Kind of. It's easy to hit L and R by accident at the same time if it's in your pocket. But they fixed that in the sequel by adding L and R, making the wake up command LR and select, which still possible on the original GBA, but on the GBA SP was safer to do. You couldn't accidentally wake it up in your pocket. But anyway, on to this town. It's only missing a few pixels. Character with strange powers? Well, that was a thing. Don't know what this Loompa is, but it doesn't sound very friendly. Vault. Angara is the continent, the northern continent, I should say. Oh boy, what to do here? They do give you pretty free reign here. How much money? I don't got some money. I haven't upgraded my weapons yet. Oh yeah, game tickets. Those are things. They're kind of annoying for a while, but it's worth hoarding them. They have any artifacts? They do. They have a magic rod, which I can't afford. I'm actually just gonna save up. Alright, so this is the mayor's house. So, from the dialogue, this character, Ivan, well, that was a thing. His master had a pretty important rod and it got stolen, and now he's been tasked with getting it back. Hey, stay out of my head, man. Well, you may be able to trust us, but I'm not sure about trusting you. But you look like our next party member. Uh, nah. It's fine. Yeah, it wasn't really surprising, but I probably could have told you that. If you say so. This is fairly important. Since we're adepts, we can tell. But regular people can't see magic. And that's Ivan. Mind read's really useful, so I'm going to set it to a shortcut. Alright, before I forget, we did get catch beads. This is one of several items that you get across the course of the game that basically, as it says, bestows the psi energy when it's equipped. So I equipped it to Isaac. Isaac now has the ability to use catch. If I were to give it to Ivan and equip it, Ivan can now use catch. And I'll leave it with Ivan because Ivan has the most PP. Ivan is the youngest in the group. I believe he's only 15. But he's the scholarly type. Kind of a bookwormish. He's physically on the frail side. I think he has the lowest defense and HP, and maybe lowish attack. That sounds suspicious. Yes. The other fun thing you can do with Mind Read is you can talk to animals. Since you couldn't tell from before, I'm mind reading this dog. He's quite philosophic. I think there's something I can... So there's another genie. Fortunately, I can ring that bell and get him to jump off, but I can't actually reach him yet. I have to come back later in the game. We'll just go ahead with the plot here. And they paid cash. Uh-huh. Wait, come back. I want to talk to you. Oh, I guess this is a one-way around. They're not making up these guests to be very upstanding citizens. So these guys avoid you no matter how quick you go. So you back out and reformulate your strategy. I mean, it's not like they could get violent or anything. I got both of them. Oh, and you're mind reading from the far one. The roof, you say? Actually, what kind of gear does... I might actually be able to get him a hat at least. Ivan doesn't come with one. Actually, or does he have a circlet? He does have a circlet, so that's actually better than the hat. Actually, you can sell the game tickets and then buy them back later. Though they're only 37 gold apiece. But anyway. No one would ever check over here. Huh. You don't remember, huh? And yet there they are. Oh no, it's those guests. Worse thieves. So you're admitting it. Man with Master Hammett's money shouldn't go anywhere near Lumpa. How's that for a naming convention? Loompa, Dompa, Dodonpa. That is exactly what I said with a shake of my head. That's not how stealing works. I mean, well, I guess that's kind of how stealing works, but that's not how justice works. Well, alright. If I remember correctly. I'm gonna prioritize that middle one. Middle one's the boss and does the most damage. Except when he's just glowering ferociously. Interestingly, I've never really been able to tell what gender these thieves are supposed to be. They kind of look feminine, but it's nothing ever actually specified. Nope. Alright, so that one's taken off. That's right. After you summon, the character that does calls on the summon gets a boost to their elemental attack, which should be their Psynergy's powers. But yeah, so Flint's in recovery now, so that one is 1 turn wait. So I can't summon him, and I'm not getting his stat bonuses. When he sets at the end of this turn, I'll start next turn with his stat bonuses. And we'll be able to unleash him again. So Smoke Bomb caused status Wrapped in Delusion, I believe that was called. That's basically blind, so physical attacks have a significantly lower chance of hitting, but fortunately Psynergy is unaffected. So there's Flint set, we can unleash him again. Go ahead and drain Garrett's Psynergy. There we go. And they drop a bandit sword. That was the NPC saying that. So they mentioned earlier that normal people can't see when the party is casting Psynergy, or using Psynergy, because they can't tell when Ivan's reading minds. But it does kind of bring up that question of what it actually looks like to ordinary people when our party is in combat, casting synergy spells? Does it look like your typical fantasy magic, where maybe there's an incantation or some hand waving and then the spell effects manifest, or is it a little more uncanny, like in Tales of Zestiria's Seraph interactions? You lying son of a bitch. Yeah, it's easier than having to explain it. It's a little harder to follow that dialogue when they don't have portraits like the player characters, but one of the guards, I think, kicked one of the thieves when they were talking. And then there was a tying up scene. Now they're tied up. I want to say, so one of those thieves swore revenge, they wouldn't forget us. I want to say they do actually escape, and they actually come back for your party in the sequel. I don't think it happened, I don't remember it happening in this one, but I think they will come back in the sequel if you transfer your data, because that is a fun function you can do between this one and the sequel. And it does pretty much what it sounds like. And it's also not the only case of this happening. Something in this game that, if you transfer data, unlocks an extra event in the sequel. I may have to go look that up though to make sure I get it. It has been a lot longer than I realized, actually. I don't think I've played this since 2011, because I believe it was right before the DS game came out. And I played that one at least once or twice. And I think that came out in 11 or 12. But I don't think I've played it since. You sure about that? Sidekick. Not necessarily. But party member. That's it. That's it, I guess. We're done here. Well, I gotta get a reward from the mayor. Water of Life. That sounds like a place. Sure. Goma Range, northeast. Biblin. I think I'm going to get... Let's see, it's 11... I think I'm going to get through Goma Cave and then call it a night. That'll should put me probably around 12, 15-ish. How much money did they drop? But right before getting into Biblin is a good place to parse, because that's basically kind of like the beginning of another arc, so to speak. I thought there was something I could use catch on in this town, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, the dog moved. Well, I can't read its mind anymore, so I don't know why. But we can go check on the thieves. I believe this is the prison. Cave to the northeast, huh? Northeast of Goma Range. Actually, should we go check on Ivan up at Loompa? I shouldn't have used both of them. I can cut through here. Okay. Oh, earthquake. Cool. So earthquake's our first wider range. It's a 5-target spell, which isn't relevant in this battle, but it's a thing. come on, random encounters. I suppose I didn't get into much on the way from Vale to Vault, so I was actually a little concerned I was under-leveled for the bandit fight. So this is Limpa. Yeah. Aw. No. So this is something I can grab with catch. Except Ivan still has my catch beads. Crap. Yep. No way in, you say? Well, you'd be right. That just lowers the door. Now I can't interact with anything anymore there. It was not meant to be. There was a quite entertaining but admittedly ego-stroking manga that I read a little while back. It was one of those isekai genres, but the premise was that a guy died and was reincarnated in the fantasy world, but he was reincarnated as a slime. Yeah, it was kind of interesting. Sorry, this is Goma Cave, and I'm trying to remember if there are at least one of every element Jin that actually appears as a random encounter on the map in certain areas. And I'm trying to remember if the first one is here or if it's a little bit later. I'm going to check and see if there's anywhere that looks familiar. This might have also just been a place that I did a bit of grinding on previous playthroughs. Which certainly isn't bad for level-wise. It's a heal. No, I don't think it's here. How anyone else traversed this mountain path is beyond me. Well, I can't move this one. Hello there. Why does this work? Yatta. Yeah, we tried to. It's not because I like you or anything. Baka. Good, because you still have my catch beads. They were a present from my mom. Yeah, Jenna. Oh, actually, yeah, I do have to do this now. So, see this kind of, well, after this fight. Actually, now that we do have Psynergy, or not Psynergy, we have a Agin Genie. I can actually demonstrate this. So, most monsters have elemental weaknesses. They don't always make any sense. So just guess. Or look for... So the damage readout at the bottom, you see how Skeleton takes 27 damage has... It's worse if they die. Oh, since they may not have an excuse to not take it back. But see how Skeleton takes 27 damage, has 3 exclamation points, and after it, that's actually an indicator in the UI that that was a super effective attack, elemental-wise. And you see how that death sequence, it was a little off screen, but the skeleton flashed some colors and actually had 2 screams before it disappeared. That's an indication that you killed with a genie that has the strong elements to that monster, and doing so, I know it increases the rare drop chance, but it might also increase experience and money. So that's worth doing when you can. But back. Fine. Demonstrate that again. But see this little indent up in here, in the area where this pillar can be moved. That indent is generally a marker for not only where you're supposed to put it, but it's also a way of indicating where if you put the pillar, it'll kind of consider the puzzle solved and will also therefore save that position, because if you put it anywhere else and you leave the room and then come back, that's a puzzle reset of a sort, or of sorts. So it's something you can do if you mess up, but if you get it in, then you did it right, and you don't need to. That's some dialogue letting you know that if you fail that battle, because since we're fighting that, we'll be encountering that genie outside of a town. We'll have to fight it to get it to join us. And annoyingly, the ones that you have to fight, they can run from battle. Sometimes they do it on the first turn, and you have to basically leave the room and come back, and it'll return. His encounter rate's a little higher than I remember, to be honest. Oh right, we've got a new spell. Might as well give it a try. And show off Whirlwind too. I haven't actually used that in battle. That one's not bad. That looks pretty good. I like fire. It does this thing with the camera where it moves. Makes it seem more interesting than it actually is, but if you think of it as a property of the move, it has some charm. You'll see puzzles like this as well that kind of force you to take some extra steps but give you a reward for doing so. In this case, a lucky medal. Lucky medal is like the game ticket. They're used in the same place, the same town I should say, for kind of a game. It's not really chance, it's kind of a chance mini game, but you can get some good stuff out of it. The lucky medals in particular have a chance of dropping some very valuable gear, especially at the time that you finally reach that city. Go back down. Now this stump is here. If we really want to, we can also backtrack a little bit faster from there. Or just save before you fight. And then you can just reload if he runs. Take that. So I'm taking quite a bit of damage here. But elemental strengths and weaknesses kind of work as you might predict. Fire and water are opposites. I think if you're strong against, you're resistant to your own element, and then weak to the opposite, if I recall correctly. So water and fire, and then wind and earth are their opposites. Your party members are actually don't quite follow that rule. I believe Isaac is weak to fire. I think Garrett is still weak to water, but your water party member I think is weak to wind. Here we have a first battle I've run into since getting Earthquake that has more than 3 targets, so I can kind of show off Earthquake here. But see those exclamation points again, Ghost is weak to wind, but the Wild Mushroom is not. and if it's given in a period afterwards instead of an exclamation point, it means it wasn't very effective. It was neutral in all these cases. See, that one's super effective. But yeah, we're right about at the end of this area here. And we're out. Alright, so that's it for tonight. Unlike with Fire Emblem, where there are very distinct chapters, this is pretty continuous, so I kind of have to designate my starting and stopping places. And story-wise, this is a good place to start because we're about to good place to stop because we're about to start a whole bunch of new stuff here, and that's a good place to pick up with next week. So hope everyone's enjoyed it. It's different from playing Fire Emblem, commentary-wise, as well as from like a streaming experience. But if you have anything you'd like to see more of, less of, let me know, and I'll see what I can do. But thanks for joining, and have a good night, everyone.